Welcome once again to Max Level, a show where I give my honest opinion about an MMO, but then finally tell you whether I think the game is worth the time and effort to reach max level. Let's begin. The game I will be reviewing today is Star Wars: The Old Republic. Star Wars was released in 2011 and went free-to-play fall of 2012. But the free-to-play is more like a free trial. You can play the game and level to max, but you can't use a bank, you get reduced XP after level 12, the list goes on. If you really want to get anywhere in the game, or want to have fun, you'll have to pay. This review will be looking at the pay-to-play version. In Star Wars, you can choose what side you want to be on, Sith or Republic. But even though you pick a Republic, for example, you can still get dark side points by choosing dark side options and dialogue sequences. In the end, you can be a Jedi that is just as evil or more evil than a Sith. After you choose your faction, you will then choose your class. A very important point before I go on. Factions have the exact same 4 classes, just with different names. The skills may have different animations, but if you were to play the game as a trooper on the Republic side and then a bounty hunter on the Sith, you would see exactly what I mean. And finally, you choose what race you want to be. You can also unlock more races or buy them with cartel points. Cartel points is the currency used in the in-game shop. Customization is decent. You can't make beards on some characters, which I don't like because I think beards look badass. Many hairstyles are just small changes to other hairstyles like cornrows. Some have 3, others have 8. You won't spend too much time customizing, I'm sure. The one nice thing they added was that for whatever race you pick, you can change that race's unique differences. Like cybernetics, for example. You can change the robotic features of your character. The game looks really good on very high graphics, and makes the surroundings even more immersive. With some planets being darker than others, some having smog, etc., it really gets you into the game. I highly recommend the highest setting, though if your computer isn't good enough, it's fine. Graphics and lighting may not change your experience the way it does for me. One problem is that I feel as if Star Wars has bad frame tearing. I've not looked into this, but I have harder frame lag on very low than I do on very high, which is odd. As for sound, the voice acting is quite good. For an MMO full with cutscenes and dialogue options for quests, it is really amazing to me. I have not seen another MMO that does what Star Wars does with quests. What I thought was awesome was that races that don't speak English in Star Wars sticks true to it by not speaking English. It isn't like some World War II movies where Germans and Russians are speaking English for some reason. Weapons do not pack a punch in terms of sound they make. Then again, they're trying to make sounds for laser swords and blaster pistols, so obviously they aren't going to make a crunch sound or hit someone hard. Alright, let's move away from all the boring stuff and move on to the story, where Star Wars shines brightest. The game takes place 300 years after Star Wars: Knights of the Old Republic and 3,500 years before the events of the Star Wars films. The Great Galactic War went underway and lasted 28 years. The war was ended when Sith attacked Coruscant, which forced the Republic to sign the Treaty of Coruscant. Many years later, tensions between the Republic and Sith began to brew once again, with conflicts beginning across the galaxy. This then branches off into your character's individual storyline. All quests are explained through cutscenes, in which you always have a say because of dialogue options. You regularly get 3 different options per cutscene. In many cases, you make light side and dark side choices. For example, you are sent to destroy a facility, and when you get there, you find out that sentient beings are living in the facility and ask if you can help them out. Kill a few more enemies so they can gain courage, drive out the rest, and set up defenses. The dark side option is to stick what you were asked to do initially and blow up the facility. Obviously, in some cases, light side options mean you have to do a little bit more, but it's all about the role playing. I should also add that when you get back to handing quests, they will react to your actions by saying something like, "What happened? There was no explosion." And then you can tell them, varying on who it is, they will react sometimes negatively or positively. I have yet to get to gameplay, so I have not yet talked about the ability of having crew members, but I shall mention it here since it's quite important to know that crew members will respond to your actions by either gaining or losing affection. Sometimes they will even jump into your conversations to give their 2 cents and whatnot.
At least you don't waste words.
You are a great warrior. I will follow you to death.
I love the way BIOWARE has gone about quests in this game. It really is something new, and it's like playing a regular single player game just with the extra awesomeness MMOs supply. I would love to see more MMOs do this, but I'm not holding my breath. This kind of work would take extremely long to do and probably cost quite the shiny penny. Let's start with crew members, since I talked a little bit about them already. Just like in Knights of the Old Republic, you can have companions, though this time you can only use one at a time in combat. And if you are in a 4-man party or raid, they cannot be used at all. And finally, you cannot have companions out at all in war zones. You can equip your crew members with items, so if you find heavy armor, but you're a Jedi Counselor, it can go to one of your companions that uses heavy armor. This does not give you an excuse to be a huge jerk and just roll neat on every item. There are also crew skills, which are essentially mining, chemistry, and crafting in many other MMOs. You can send 3 crew members at a time, varying on your level, to collect materials, and this adds a really cool aspect to the game, where you can go around the world and gather supplies to increase your level, but you can send companions out to gather supplies needed for your crafting. Then make them craft the items so you don't have to waste time and be bored by crafting and gathering. It's a time saver and a money maker. Additionally, you can send companions out to sell your shitty gray items that are only made to be sold, while you can continue to explore. A little thing, but it really is quite the time saver. Crew members did not only do all of that, they also have very different characteristics. For example, a tougher character who is a soldier and is all about killing will like it when you pick a dark side option and kill an enemy instead of taking him hostage. They will even jump in to add their 2 cents, so if instead you take the person hostage, they will make a remark such as, "Not a very wise choice, Jedi," and then you will lose some affection from them. This adds another small, but noticeable thing that will make you feel more immersed, like your actions are actually affecting people around you. I'd just like to throw in a little point here that you can actually get mail from people you do missions for, thanking you and telling you what your actions did after that mission, after you got your reward and you went on. It's a little thing, but it's really, really cool. One last thing about companions is that a little speech indicator will pop up on their splash image, and if you go to a cantina or your ship, you can talk to them, and sometimes it will result in you getting a quest. Now that the companion talk is over, I want to move on to PvP and raids. If you run into a player from the opposite faction, then you can PvP him. I believe this starts when you get to Tatooine, and it is so much fun. Star Wars also has war zones, which are little PvP game modes. I should add that all PvP modes are factioned. You will always be facing Sith as a Jedi and vice versa. Anyways, PvP war zones are actually rewarding. You get a nice handful of XP and credits from them. Not only that, but you also get Valor points and PvP commendations, which can be used to buy specialty PvP goods. When in war zones, everyone is equal. They are not boosted to the same level, but when I was playing my healer, my heals did around 4,000 damage when I normally did like 800. This did not bother me as much as I thought it would. I enjoyed being able to PvP and not be completely demolished. It all goes off your equips. There are 5 different war zones: Hypergate, Novar Coast, Void Star, Hut Ball, and Alderaan. But most of them are just capture the point maps with little differences. Now for dungeons. Swtor calls its dungeons flashpoints, and they're quite good. Nice scenery, you get a lot of XP and some good loot from them. You can also make decisions in the flashpoints, like opening the hangar and sucking out all the engineers there, or trying to find another way to help them. This won't change the flashpoint itself, but it's about the immersion. All in all, BIOWARE did a pretty good job on flashpoints, and didn't make them this nothing to it, kill everyone type of deal, which is a nice change. Though grinding the dungeons gets repetitive, of course, but especially when you have people who are playing it for the first time and don't skip the cutscene you have seen time and time again. There isn't much else to say about flashpoints, so let's move on to combat. Obviously the PvP won't be fun if the combat isn't. Star Wars has tab targeting combat, thus making the combat boring and nothing special. Don't get me wrong, even with tab targeting you can have some intense battles, but for a lot of classes, you don't have many moves, so you're seeing the same ones again and again and again. It's boring. I played Swtor around a year ago, and I was having a lot of fun. Then I randomly stopped playing, and I'm sure it's because the combat was not fun and repetitive. I wish there were more skills or did something interesting to make the combat fun, but there isn't, and this heavily affects the final score because I love great combat, and when an MMO does not focus on its combat but instead on its storytelling, it just isn't a smart move. I'm going to talk about this later on when I'm giving my final verdict, but let's move on to endgame. I will clarify, endgame starts when you reach max level. Any content or activities that are available after max level counts as endgame content. So obviously you have PvP and dungeons, crafting and whatnot, and crafting isn't very useful at endgame, it's more of a way to make money than anything. There are dailies, of course, and then there are also operations, which play the biggest role in Swtor's endgame content. They are flashpoints that have groups of 8 to 16 players. They're story driven. The operations will include more dangerous opponents and reward players with much more valuable items. They can be played through multiple times and with varying levels of difficulty. They are completed in various stages. You can also continue finishing your storyline. Your story missions do not end at level 55. You can continue doing them if you would like. If you complete them, you get special legacy skills. I forgot to mention this earlier, but you can have a family tree and add all of your characters in that tree. You can make characters married or be siblings, and then they will continue contributing to your legacy level. Once you reach max level, you continue to get legacy experience and continue leveling it, which opens global unlocks, which can then be purchased for all your characters in your legacy, giving low level characters a speed boost and even a repair droid for your ship. To conclude this, you can buy special skills and items by unlocking them by leveling your legacy. Now to get to my original point. Some people think it isn't worth completing your story because the legacy skill is a 20-minute cooldown, so the only reason you would complete the story is for the story. One thing that can and will take you a while to acquire is full Dread Guard gear, which can only be done by doing hard mode dungeons. Then, once you acquire all the gear, you can go and do Nightmare dungeons. BIOWARE did add an expansion called Rise of the Hutt Cartel, which is actually now free to subscribers. Normally the cap is 50, but with the expansion it is increased to 55. There is also a story that comes with it that will distract you for a bit. There are also datacrons that are hidden around the world that require you to jump puzzle your way to them, or just to find a way in general. It's not an important factor, but it will make you frustrated and distract you for around 20 minutes. To find them, it'll take a while and might be some fun. Clearly, you can tell I'm trying to find any little thing that adds to the endgame content list, but there simply isn't any. Nothing really worth mentioning anyways. I think it's time that we got to the final verdict. Here we are, the moment of truth. Let's recap. Customization is nothing special. Some would say half-assed, but it does have that cool ability to customize features special to your race. Graphics are very nice, and the voice acting and the sound is decent. Swtor wins at its storytelling. All quests explained through cutscenes, even having story missions being explained through cutscenes is unreal on MMO. But for side missions as well, that is an excellent feature. The complete immersion of the storytelling, with companions reacting to things you say and being able to choose what you want to say, making light side and dark side decisions, is incredible. Sadly, that's where Swtor exceeds. Swtor's combat is very boring. Tab targeting to enemies and barely getting skills that are used to attack other players. The animations are boring, and overall is where Swtor loses me. Having excellent storytelling is good for a single player game. Might even get an 8 out of 10 or 9 out of 10 solely based on that. But Swtor is an MMO RPG where great combat should be their primary goal. But sadly it wasn't. Things like flashpoints are very important in an MMO, but no one would really care if it was just a grind fest in them. Because yes, the side storytelling in them is nice, but you're there to get loot and XP, then get back to the awesome storytelling. Not to chat and go into dialogue options that just annoy you. PvP war zones are very similar to each other. Though some are very good concepts, they could have varied them a little bit more. Last but not least, the endgame content is lacking. A lot. An MMO should be aiming for long-term success. Swtor appeals to me as if it is a single-player game, not an MMO. The game ending like a single-player game where it ends and there's nothing else to do, that is not what an MMO should end like. But it feels as if Swtor was aiming for a single-player duration of a game, where it only lives on for around a month, maybe less, and then there's nothing else to do in the game. That should not be what an MMO is. An MMO should live on for a long time, even after max level. You're paying for the game $15 a month. You should get an MMO, not a single player experience. Overall, Swtor is a 6 out of 10. Swtor doesn't have a lot to offer, but it's storytelling. I would say give it a try, but Swtor is not worth the time, effort, and money to reach max level. Thank you guys for watching. I'm sorry it took me so freaking long to get this Swtor review out. It's been forever that I've had this like almost done, but I just haven't finished it, and freaking I don't even know. But here it is. I'm gonna try and do these a little bit faster because I could have done this like 2 months ago, but there's really no excuse. I was just lazy as shit. But I will try to get these out faster. I will try. I have my next review in mind, and I'm gonna start working on it right when I upload this. So I got a huge response on the first max level, and hoping that this one is just as good, and hope I can keep the same quality for the Tera review for my next reviews coming. So thank you guys for watching, and goodbye.